The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom isn't even 2 years old, so we are still years away from the next major game in the series. And while we most likely will continue to have smaller releases like Echoes of Wisdom to whet our Zelda appetite over the next couple of years, it's never too early to speculate on what Link's next grand adventure might look like. And today is an especially good time to do just that, because I have thought of the perfect setting for the next Zelda game to take place. It might not be the most revolutionary concept, but I believe that if Nintendo were able to pull this idea off successfully, then it would have something on its hands that could surpass both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Before I share the details on this million-dollar idea though, I just want to say thanks for clicking on my video. If you enjoy what you see today, please be sure to give this video a like and consider subscribing to my channel. I release videos on a variety of different video game topics weekly, and things are sure to be heating up soon with the Switch 2 right around the corner. I'd love for you to stick around. Alright, enough of the preamble though, let's talk some Zelda. The defining feature of both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom is freedom. Prior to Breath of the Wild, Zelda games felt like mini open worlds. The player had the ability to explore at their own pace and tackle certain side quests in different orders, but they still very much felt like on-rail experiences, continuously guiding the player from point A to point B in their adventure. But then Breath of the Wild came along and completely blew the top off the traditional Zelda experience, giving players the freedom to get completely lost in its world. And while this shift may have led to certain aspects of the Zelda experience suffering, neither Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom have dungeons that even come close to the peaks of some of the strongest traditional Zelda dungeons. There is no denying that this was a bold new direction for the franchise that the vast majority of players, myself included, really enjoyed. I mean, the Breath of the Wild sales numbers speak for themselves. Like it or not, this new giant open world formula is probably going to be the formula for these big mainline Zelda games for the foreseeable future. But that doesn't change the fact that the next Zelda game is still probably going to have to look very different from Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. As much as I and many others love Tears of the Kingdom, it still got a lot of crap from many people for reusing large portions of its predecessor's map. And while I personally didn't mind it, Nintendo obviously cannot go back to that well a third time, so the next game's setting is most likely going to look very different. But what exactly is that going to look like? How does Nintendo maintain the extreme freedom and giant open world feel of the last two games, while also giving the next title a drastically different setting? I believe the answer is obvious. It's time for the Zelda series to look back on and draw inspiration from its past. Namely, The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. Like I said, Breath of the Wild gets credit for providing a sense of freedom and a giant open world like the Zelda series had never seen before, but in my eyes, The Wind Waker did this first. Full disclosure, The Wind Waker is probably my favorite game of all time, so I'm obviously pretty biased on this front, but in many ways, The Wind Waker walked so Breath of the Wild could run. When The Wind Waker released all the way back in 2002, it provided a giant open world playground like we had never seen before from the Zelda series. Sure, Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask provided vast worlds that the players could explore, but they paled in comparison to the world that was on display in The Wind Waker. Sailing around the Great Sea, finding new islands to explore and stories to tell was a formative gaming experience for me, and I distinctly remember being completely blown away by the sheer scope of that game. It truly felt like a massive, never-ending open world with an endless amount of content to consume. Looking back with a more objective eye though, there are certainly flaws with The Wind Waker. Dungeon and pacing issues aside, the Great Sea isn't quite as expansive of a setting as my younger self found it to be. Some islands are clearly there just for padding, and the grid nature of the game's map makes things feel more restricted and rigid than you would like in a game that revolves around the freedom of sailing the Great Sea. However, if Nintendo were to revisit this concept now, with the modern Zelda formula that was established with Breath of the Wild, I think we would have something truly special on our hands. Like I said, the signature element of modern Zelda is freedom and exploration, and there is no better setting for those concepts than the Great Sea. If The Wind Waker was able to provide such an immersive and exhilarating sense of freedom with its setting all the way back in 2002, imagine what Nintendo could do with it now. Imagine a world using the physics and the engine of Breath of the Wild, but now Link is exploring a primarily water-covered land. This time around, the size of the ocean could be staggering, and it would be filled with land masses of varying different size and scope. Some could be small and limited in content, maybe only featuring this game's version of shrines, while others could be home to massive cities and settlements that would put Windfall Island to shame. Obviously, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom both had ocean exploration to an extent, but it was very limited, a small sliver of what those games were looking to deliver on. This time around though, it would be the focal point. In addition to a vast ocean-based open world to get lost in, the game could also lean heavily into the ship aspect of things. Back in 2002, Link only had the King of Red Lions to explore the Great Sea with, and while the small sailboat was plenty for that game's limited open world, this time Link could be given a massive ship complete with all sorts of customization and upgrade potential. Similar to how Tears of the Kingdom gave Link a physical home to build and decorate, making a ship Link's home base this time would be a natural fit for the game. Much like the house in Tears of the Kingdom, its physical appearance could be customized to the player's liking, but it could also house a vast upgrade system, giving the player the ability to change how the ship controls and feels, along with stats such as speed and weapon capabilities. Much like how Tears of the Kingdom had the battery system to act as a carrot on a stick to continually give the player something to chase and upgrade, this game could use the ship feature to do the same, with all sorts of upgrade materials and parts hidden across its open world. Throw in health and stamina upgrades from shrines like in the last two games, and you have all the ingredients for another 100 plus hour Zelda adventure to get lost in. Tears of the Kingdom took the Breath of the Wild world to the next level by adding both a sky and depths area to the original map, and I think there would be room to do something similar with the hypothetical game I'm pitching here. The sky concept might be a little much, as it could take away from a desired emphasis on ocean traversal, but something similar to the depths? I mean, it writes itself, as this game could very naturally add some sort of underwater area to its expansive world. Perhaps in this game, Link has some sort of breathing apparatus that allows him to breathe underwater freely and explore another level beneath the sea, housing all sorts of secrets and extra powerful enemies. Similar to the depths in Tears of the Kingdom, this could act as an unofficial hard mode, with the deepest depths of the oceans being home to some of the strongest and most terrifying creatures in the entire game. I'll admit, as someone who as a kid was scared shitless of the underwater level and that damn eel in Super Mario 64, I might not be dying to explore this particular area, but you gotta admit that the potential in something like this would be limitless. The game would need some sort of way to make sure that this underwater area is still fun to play and control Link in, as the series has never really been known for its exceptional handling of water-based mechanics, but figure that out and I think you have a concept that could easily surpass the Tears of the Kingdom's depths in terms of both content and creepiness. I do think that this game would have to scale back the do anything you want sandbox nature of Tears of the Kingdom just a bit, as this world might not be built to handle the ultra hand-induced mayhem that game introduced. But that might be a good thing. As much as I love Tears of the Kingdom, if the games continue to stray further into that build your own fun territory, it might risk losing some of the series' core DNA. That's why I think a game more in the vein of Breath of the Wild, but set at sea, is the perfect next step for the series. Like I said earlier, we are likely years away from seeing any footage of this hypothetical Zelda game I've spent the last 10 minutes talking about. But when we finally do see that reveal, if the game is set at sea, I can promise you that I am going to lose my freaking mind. Let me know what you think about this idea in the comments below though. What do you want to see from the next big Zelda game? Do you think returning to the Great Sea is a good idea, or a step in the wrong direction? And of course, as always, thanks for watching.